No. Testosterone isn't testosterone. There's a long-standing myth that goes like whatever the ester is, like doesn't matter. Like it's all the same thing. Once the ester gets cleaved off and you just have regular testosterone in the blood, then it's all the same thing. Cypionate, enanthate, propionate, it doesn't really matter. But if it didn't really matter, why do people get better libido when they switch from cypionate, a long ester, to a short-acting, fast-acting ester like testosterone propionate? Why do people have vastly different experiences when they go on cream versus testosterone cypionate? Why do some people have a marginally better experience or even a significantly better experience when they change from merely testosterone cypionate to testosterone enanthate? The answer is, and as I've described in this video, complete restoration of libido, the savior testosterone drug, and why cypionate is subpar, where I broke down propionate and the aromatization dynamics, is that ultimately longer esters and steady state androgens, which equals steady state estradiol, though could be great for some people via IGF-1 and more anabolism. Maybe they require more estradiol, or they feel better on higher levels of estradiol. Whereas other guys, it's going to totally fuck up their TRT protocol. Their libido interactions are going to be very, very lackluster, and they're not going to have a good experience. Ultimately, though, this is the thread that I want to break down. Test isn't test, okay? Ester talk, and why is shorter better? Now, look, I've run every ester. I'm on testosterone enanthate right now, just a low dose of it. If I ever go back to prop, which, by the way, I felt the best on and had the best libido on, it just, the post-injection pain really sucks, I'm probably just going to go intramuscular so I can avoid a good degree of that PIP. But I want you to strap in, and I want you to turn your thinking cap on, because we're going to break down some nuanced stuff that the meatheads don't like to talk about when they say, test is test. No, test isn't test, and we're going to break it down, boys. Before we start the video, I am almost booked on large-scale coaching programs. So those of you with the budget that are serious entrepreneurs or serious people that want to work on libido, sexual function, testosterone, hormones in general, erectile quality, nootropics, dopamine restoration, and otherwise, hire me at livecortex.com for either a 3-month program, a 6-month program, or a 1-year program. Torque Stack, all day energy, boys. I mean, this is replacing people's Adderall. Very effective. 35% off. Code for that is 35 Torque. Cortex Stack, both of these stacks are my brainchild. I invented them. Fast acting stimulant, 25% off right now. Code for that is 25 Cortex. All of our products can be found in the description below with the links as well as all of the codes. The codes are down in the description, boys. The codes are down there as well as the links. All right. So yes, this common repeated phrase throughout the testosterone forums, call it, right? It's like Reddit and Excel Mail and all these different forums, that test is test is really not true. Different esters aromatize differently. They affect you differently. They make you retain or not retain nitrogen depending on the ester. And some are more anabolic, definitely, than others. And there's also a difference in the amount of testosterone you get per dose, right? 100 milligrams cypionate and 100 milligrams propionate are not the same thing. You're actually getting more testosterone on your propionate 100 milligrams than you are on your cypionate 100 milligrams. But ultimately, test isn't test, and I'm going to break it down. All right, let's go to this thread. It's titled Test Isn't Test, Ester Talk and Why is Shorter Better. Guy goes, I've been on TRT since I was 26, and 10 years later, so here's a 36-year-old male that's been on androgens for 10 years, I've yet to hear any conclusive evidence or suggestions about why this phenomenon occurs when others experience this also beyond the usual it's all in your head nonsense. The scenario is simple. Something to quick not gloss over. He goes like, how people refer to like people's different subjective experiences with different esters as it's all in your head. There are meatheads in forums that won't force their brains to execute like high levels of nuance, like in these conversations, these arguments, and regarding the scientific literature around pharmacokinetics of testosterone solutions. When people say they have different effects from different esters because their brains just can't fucking fire at that higher level, they're just going to go placebo. The amount of times I've seen people go like, it's all in your head and placebo kind of makes me a little sick. And it's honestly very annoying. Like, just please use your brain. Here's this guy's situation. Low SHBG, all right? I inject test every day, 7 days a week. A TRT dose is 160 milligrams, and a small cycle will be, say, 330 milligrams. Now, here's what happens. He goes, let's just say I use 160 milligrams a week as an example, TRT, with absolutely no other changes. Same milligram for milligram, same everyday protocol, same diet, workout, same blood numbers, absolutely identical, except using test P, so that's testosterone propionate. I don't have my prop here, it's downstairs. I feel like, he goes, I literally feel like Superman. I'll dry out and get vascular. My face will lean out. I'm happy. I'm confident. I don't even know the words anxiety, and I don't even know what the words anxiety and depression mean. Life is great and nothing will get me down. Libido, erection, and sleep are all cranked. Gym gains are basically, I can look at some weights and add muscle and lose fat. He goes, gym gains are basically, I can look at some weights and add muscle. He just looks at weights and adds muscle. That's probably an exaggeration, and lose fat, but I understand what he means, right? I give off this energy that simply attracts people to me. It almost feels like some kind of drug, a constant high, yet I'm always calm and at peace. This is Test at its best. Now, what he just explained, by the way, is precisely how you want to feel on TRT. This is why I've got a vast array of coaching clients and blood work and situations that I analyze and look at and fucking think about at 2 a.m. when I wake up in the middle of the night, because it's just my life. And why I then do follow-up content about different esters, different effects people have, running Proviron, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because I think people need all the education they can get to make informed decisions on what's going to work well for them, because TRT is a dance. It's not necessarily that you're just going to start and be dialed in. Guy goes, okay, so that's his experience on prop. Let's move to testosterone intake, shall we? Using Test E, I feel mostly good, but I'll have my bad days. My face gets chipmunk cheeky and notably more bloated. I'm happy enough, but it's noticeably worse and comes in spikes. One moment I'm up, and the next, the anxiety will come and go out of nowhere, and I'll go into a depressive funk. Libido, erection, and sleep are all negatively affected and not consistent, right? This right here is not uncommon to have libido and erection issues on longer esters. Again, you got to either infrequently dose them, in my opinion, or dose them very low to get estradiol in a reasonable range, which ultimately facilitates sexual function on TRT. He goes, sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. Not reliable. Anyone's guess when they'll come and go. Gym gains are noticeably harder. I feel weaker, and adding clean size is harder. I also just overall look softer and less androgenized. I feel irritated more often. You know, he goes on to explain a bunch of other things. Then he goes, this is Test at its okayest. It's like okay, right? Running a longer ester, it's like okay. Using Test C. All right, let's go to Cypionate. I feel like absolute death warmed up. What? Like I'm not even on TRT. Like my blood is made of pure beta soy. Dude, my body turns to shit. Forget the gym. No matter how hard I try, my strength disappears and I'll look doughy and soft as hell. Libido, erection, and sleep are completely gone by this point. So here's a guy. Prop, good libido and erections. And if they subpar, but still okay. Cypionate, the sexual stuff goes out the window. Test isn't test, boys. The esters matter. Hard, flaccid, and insomnia is the order of the day. I'll be so stressed and manic that people will barely make eye contact with me, at least in my mind's eye. Almost constant anxiety that feels like I'm trying to crawl out of my skin, so I couldn't even blame them if they were. Most ironically, this is the exact way I would feel when I had untreated low T before I started TRT, and Test C is the only ester that makes me feel this way. Like I could just be pinning backwater with nothing in it. This is not Test. The reason that I brought this guy's experience is so that we can go ultimately to this thread, which is titled Long Esters versus Short Esters, to again enforce the idea that no, Test isn't Test, okay? Esters are different. They aromatize differently. They affect people differently. They peak differently. They trough differently. Everything about them is fucking different. Let's break down esters, all right? From this guy's perspective, what is an ester? The easiest way, let me just highlight this. To explain an ester is a time release mechanism. The ester prolongs the half-life of the drug. So pure testosterone or test no ester is in and out of the system very quickly, less than a few hours. So multiple daily injections would be necessary for stable blood levels. That's if you're running test suspension, which obviously no one suggests you do and also hurts and is a pain in the ass. This would obviously be inconvenient and painful. So scientists decide to add a chain or ester to extend the life of the steroid. As a result, injection frequencies can be cut down. If you look at the picture of testosterone, you will see how the molecule has an OH or hydroxyl group at the 17th position. That's necessary for the steroid to bind to the androgen receptor. This is where they add the ester. With this side chain or ester blocking the 17th carbon in the beta position, the steroid is temporarily inactive. However, as soon as it gets into the bloodstream, esterase enzymes come and hydrolyze the ester, or in other words, remove the ester, which restores the hydroxyl group, making the steroid active. Lastly, the longer the ester, the less water soluble it is and more fat soluble it is. Something that is more fat soluble is going to take longer to be released from the deposit or the depot. The depot is this, the area that's pooling up when you inject. That's the depot. It gets slowly released from the depot. Now here's something important. Longer esters are more anabolic and will cause more muscle gain. In 1954, a scientist named Reifstein, sounds like a fucking 1954 scientist, sounds like a German scientist, Reifstein, and his team conducted a study comparing testosterone enanthate with testosterone propionate. The results of these studies were that test enanthate resulted in total nitrogen retention of 1.76 grams per day versus propionate only at 1.02 grams per day. They also found that the duration of anabolic activity was 33 days with test E and 12 days with test prop. These were the same doses of 200 milligrams each. Overall, the longer ester retains more nitrogen, which ultimately is going to equal more muscle gain per day than short esters, and remains active in the body for much longer. If something causes higher levels of nitrogen retention and hangs around in your body longer, it's going to be more anabolic. All right, I have generally found this to be true. On a fucking mere 140 milligram dose of testosterone cypionate, I am anabolic as fuck. It's very easy for me to put on visible mass, you know, like I maybe gain some strength or whatever, but I actually physically look bigger on higher doses of longer, even medium doses of longer esters. Whereas with prop, you know, a little smaller, again, a lot less water retention, a little less nitrogen, still great and anabolic, but not like a longer ester. Plasma levels, suppression, and estrogen. A study on 3 different testosterone esters, okay, short, medium, and long esters. Their study showed that the short esters caused the greatest plasma peak of testosterone, which makes sense. You know, you're injecting prop, you're gonna get a peak in 4 to 6 hours or 2 to 4 hours, really depends on your physiology, but you're getting super physiologic depending on your dose or very high levels of testosterone pretty quickly. Next highest was the medium, and lowest peak was the longer esters. Okay, so that's true. You get a lower androgen peak with longer esters, whereas with fast-acting esters, you get a pretty quick peak, and it's a higher peak than longer esters. However, they found that longer esters cause the greatest suppression on the gonadal axis and metabolic functions. This is true. I've broken down papers on this. Okay, there are actual scientific papers on this where shorter esters suppress HPG functionality a lot less than longer esters. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed bloat is greater with long esters, despite the fact that some people say test is test. Again, you know, this mindless, non-nuanced position on test is test. Test is not test. They're definitely different, these esters. We don't typically use short esters for bulks and long esters for cuts. We use short esters for cuts and contest preps because they don't convert to estrogen to the same degree that long esters do, in turn causing less water retention. Estradiol levels were much higher with the group using long esters despite identical doses of the drug. In short, long esters cause a higher rise in estrogen. The study with 3 different testosterone esters was done over a 28-week period. The shortest esters allowed for the quickest return of natural levels of hormones. Sperm count also remained the highest with short esters, concluding that short esters are less suppressive than longer esters. Part of the reason why long esters are so much more suppressive is due to the rise in estrogen that they cause. The mechanism that tells the HPTA to cease testosterone production is estrogen binding, and this is fucking correct. This is why ultimately you can jumpstart your own production, or PCT, with PCT drugs like enclomiphene, which by the way are not TRT, those are PCT drugs. The feedback system thinks, okay, estrogen is binding, which is converted from testosterone, so this reflects adequate levels of testosterone. So the HPTA shuts down. This is actually true. The hypothalamus pituitary specifically, doesn't really monitor testosterone levels all that much. Actually, it monitors estradiol. Long esters cause higher levels of estrogen. Estradiol is sticking around longer because of this steady state, which everyone thinks is good, and maybe for some, okay, but isn't going to be great for other people. Steady state isn't necessarily like this end-all be-all or like the grand king that you must achieve because fucking Brosif73 on Reddit said that you've got to do that. Brosif73 is parroting stuff he heard from Brosif79, by the way. Long esters cause more water retention. True. Long esters cause more suppression of the HPTA. True. Long esters cause higher levels of nitrogen retention and thus muscle gain, and in other words, are more anabolic. Yes, true. Shorter esters cause higher peak plasma levels. True. And look, I've already been through a lot of the threads on testosterone propionate, like shorter esters reviving people's libido. There are a bunch of them, and there are a bunch of comments where people are weighing in like this guy. Absolutely, my libido and member went off the charts 24 hours after switching from Test C to Test P at 1/2 of the dose. So look, my job here is not to give blanket advice. I've seen some of you guys commenting recently like that, like one day I'm saying, you know, do a low dose with a little bit of HCG, and then another day I'm saying you've got to dose HCG at 500 IU. I see 4 people a day and have anywhere from 15 to 30 coaching clients, which are real men with real bloods and real symptoms and real issues all around the world. So when I make distinctions in these contexts, I'm posting ultimately conditional logic that is embedded within my post. Okay, if this is the case, then do this. It's not blanket statements. So I just want some of you that have been commenting on that, like, to be absolutely clear. I'm saying if you can't manage estradiol or you can't get sexual function on a longer ester, try a shorter ester, because this is why. I'm saying if you were hypogonadal for some considerable period of time before you got on TRT and you got some real issues and you had a lack of androgen receptor binding, then maybe add proviron to your TRT so that you're getting more androgen receptor activation, potentially a restoration of the androgen receptor binding domains. I'm weaving in conditional logic and giving people suggestions with if-then statements. This isn't even really about that. It's like, okay, if you've had problems on longer esters, switch to prop. I mean, you'll definitely have a better experience. I did. You know, maybe you need to go on testosterone cream. Maybe that's going to be better for you. But ultimately, the point I want to make is esters aren't like test isn't test. Esters do aromatize differently. Longer esters are more anabolic than shorter esters. Like shorter fast-acting esters are less suppressive to the HPG axis than longer esters. All of this stuff is true. If on Reddit or anywhere, like just in any discussion about this, and people say like test is test and the ester doesn't matter, just understand that they likely lack the nuance to dive deeper into the scientific literature to understand these differences in esters, particularly in how the pharmacokinetics influence estradiol, IGF-1, human growth hormone, these things. Libido, erections, the sexual system often is revived on shorter esters for men that can't dial in on longer esters. With longer esters, again, you got to inject less frequently so there's less estradiol exposure at the tissues, or you can inject every day shallow IM, but you got to inject low doses, maybe take a little bit of an AI, maybe throw some proviron in there. You really have to watch the estradiol in that case. It all really is going to depend, but what I wanted to do in this video is just give you guys a breakdown of, yeah, no, test isn't test, okay? These esters are different, and I hope that now everybody understands that. Discounts on products, the codes are in the description. Cortex Stack, 25% off. Code for that is 25 Cortex. Torque Stack, man, replacing Adderall, replacing modafinil for some people. All day energy and focus and motivation, 35% off. Code for that is 35 Torque. Coaching, I'm probably the most sought out in terms of fixing people's sexual function, libido, erectile quality, people on the web regarding this, because I've been doing it for more than a half decade. Bottom line is, like, I know what it's like to have sexual dysfunction. I had it early in my 30s. I've worked with a lot of people with serious sexual dysfunction, or people that sexual function is okay, but they really would like libido and erections, and the whole sexual system will work a lot better. In addition to that, though, nootropics, brain restoration, dopamine restoration, guidance, and protocols on using things like cerebral lysin really runs the gamut what I can do. 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. Book me livecortex.com. These slots are almost filled. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you have a great rest of your week. More content coming soon. Look forward to that. Live stream this Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Tune into it. Have post noties on. Good luck at the gym. Good luck at your job. Good luck with your business. Good luck with your wife. Good luck with your life. And I'll talk to you guys on the next one.